All right, so we'll get right to it. America. What exactly is going on right now, man? When people view America, the United States of America, I don't know what they're thinking. Because first of all, we're a country, a very powerful country, a very successful country. We're dwindling by the day. I could see it. I'm an 80s baby. I'm old enough to understand the difference between now and then. And I'm not talking about culture. I'm not talking about politics, just mainly the mood of the people. There's a lot of angry, rightfully so, people that are out there right now because of a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, experiencing, witnessing, hearing. It's not very good. But there's a lot of solutions that I have to offer when it comes to rebuilding I'm not going to say the infrastructure, but at least the foundation of thought, foundation of mind. Like, where are we as a people when we're walking outside? You know, we have a guest coming on soon. Hopefully he got the memo. I'm just waiting for him to jump on because this is a real American. And what I mean by that is by serving your country and focusing on your country, representing your country as well. Because you could be American, yada yada yada. That song just came into my head, the yada 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 yada, whatever the hell song that is. But yeah, we when we go to other countries or other places, you're representing the United States of America. So I have seen people get smacked up, choked up, just from doing practical pranks and playing practical jokes on people in other countries like Japan. And you'll get smacked up really quick because people don't play that over there. We do play a little too much. But when it comes to a solution to where we're at as a country, how can we make things better? Well, there's a lot of different ways. The first way is when you wake up, just be grateful that you're alive. I'm not saying that you have to be grateful to God. Me, personally, I'm grateful to God every single living breath that I breathe. But be grateful that you're alive. And I'm sorry that you're dealing with whatever circumstances that you're dealing with, but truth be told, everyone has problems. When I'm online, I just got back on social media and Facebook, and when I went on there, I saw a lot of strife, obviously, a lot of struggling. Um, I see a lot of patterns, behavior patterns. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there's some people that haven't changed for the better. And there's some people who have changed for the better because they followed a pattern that, set them where they needed to go. They followed the right road. I've made a lot of wrong turns, just like anybody, any average person right now, especially living in 2025. You can easily sneeze the wrong way and wind up in debt for the rest of your life. When you wake up, be grateful. When you go outside, yeah, I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do under any circumstances because people are going to have shitty days. People are going to be angry. People are going to be in a rush to go somewhere. People are, they have a lot of anxiety, especially with the third parties and the ride share. I think it's helping increase that anxiety of, the social fabric of just dealing with everyday life outside, like shopping and stuff. Like people won't even leave their house nowadays. And with rideshare programs like, what I do with DoorDash or just a delivery business, it's increasing their anxiety because now there is going to be no cure eventually. No one's going to want to leave the house and deal with society, and I don't blame them. But not to get too far off of just being a good human to your country, your territory, right? The United States of America was once something. Whatever it was before, we had our founding fathers that came into this country, pretty much Many lives were taken, black, white, Asian. It really didn't matter at that point, in order to create this nation and where we're at now. I believe in the founding nation. I believe in the principle. I believe in the original blueprint. Call it the Constitution, call it an idea, call it whatever you want. But I do believe in the original, uh, sensible democracy that this country used to have. And a lot of that structure was built by religion. Unfortunately, as much people, as many, once you started taking God out of the courts and in schools, I personally witnessed that because like I said in my last video, I've been in and out of court most of my if not all of my adult life, uh, like actual adult life. And I do remember seeing in God we trust, right over the judge, and we don't see that anymore. There's a lot of things that have changed in this country, and I don't think it's for the better. Uh, how, just going, understanding what the country was meant to be. Freedom has a cost, there's a price to freedom. Freedom is extremely dangerous, obviously, because you don't have someone enforcing, like a dictator, people not to have weapons or, uh, staying in line with not jaywalking and driving correctly. You have that dictatorship, social control, monopoly on people's lives. Because, places in China, I don't think it's the entire China, but I believe it's in certain places and areas and cities or towns in China where you can't go to travel if you're just not abiding by what they do. And because of that, it does keep the crime rate low. That doesn't mean that there's no crime. But then you have places like Japan, you can't vote in stupidity. Not to the degree that we can here. Like we're just voting people in office that have no idea what life is about. They think being American is like shouting. Nowadays, to be American, according to a lot of the people on the left that I'm witnessing, I don't agree with any side. But from what I'm seeing, you have the left screaming and shouting at the country, and then you have the right that is screaming for and with the country. And the division is just like you have people who hate the country and you have people who love the country. But what is it? What is America? Is it the land? Well, United States of America. Is it a business? What is it that you love and hate about it? Because if you are, from what I'm witnessing, with the left, they want to change everything. They want things to be fair. They want trees to identify as cats and cats identify as dogs. And like, it's just like a complete fucking mess. And it is true. And they know that. They're not stupid. That's why there's so much fighting and so much confusion on their side, from what I'm seeing. The right looks like they have their minds made up. That's not to say they're not evil. That's not to say they're not good. That's not to say they're people of God or are people of God. I'm just following patterns that I'm watching and experiencing in my whole upbringing in this nation. But again, you have people that think America is either shouting at America or being an American is shouting at the government or pro-government. And it's a lot more to that. It's not just about a flag. We're totally forgetting about our land. What is here now? When you go outside, do you litter? Do you Are you wasteful with your life? Are you focusing on the important things of life? Are you eating the right foods? Are you exercising? And what I mean by that, just getting up and going out, moving, assimilating with people in the United States of America. Are you spending money to keep money like if you have a gross amount of money in the bank, I think it's just like absolutely, well, like in a savings where it's not moving or doing anything. What the fuck are you doing? Do you need to see so many zeros in your bank? Because what happens is when you start hoarding money and you're not putting it into the economy, and I don't blame a lot of rich people right now. I can see that they're afraid to invest. Although the economy is going, But you do have people hoarding money, and I understand why they do it, but the why it's bad to hoard money will be no difference from hoarding resources. You're blocking and stopping people from getting resources and taking care of their lives. You're it's a stopgap. You put in a ceiling to what other people can do and make out there. I'm not saying be over generous with your spending. What I'm saying is that if you're hoarding money and you're just, taking it off for yourself, well, is that American? Just getting rich and telling everyone to go fuck themselves? Is that because that's what I see a lot of that. The LeBron Jameses of the world. And I say his name specifically because it's not that I can't stand the dude himself. I'm sure he has a great heart. I'm sure he's a great dude. But the way you just flaunt yourself like I'm worth this, and if I don't get paid that, like you're just you come off as a fucking douchebag, and you're not being helpful towards the United States when you guys are uh making gross amounts of money, making people go into debt to come see you at your games, getting season passes. A lot of people lose their asses off on that, and then they spend all their money on the alcohol when they go to the games. And I'm not saying that's how it is for every single American, but it just seems like and you if you have a IQ that's at least near the triple digits, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What is American? Being famous, a celebrity, like what is American? Being poor? Because there's a lot more poor people here than there are rich and famous, and it's crazy because prices keep going up. These corporations and millionaires keep getting richer. I know it's cliche to hear, but it's literally happening right before our eyes. When I was growing up, you hear about these things, right? And I know it was going on. Well, I don't think I understood. Obviously not. We all grow. We get older, wiser, more mature. We start understanding how life actually works. But I didn't know it was this bad. Like when they say the rich gets rich, the poor gets poor. Again, I know it's cliche, but I didn't know it was this bad. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about just watching a television. And again, I said this in one of my previous videos. It's not, I don't sit at a desk all day for 20 years. I know people that's been at jobs for 20 years, 10 years, even 5 years, 8 years, loyal to their company, which is fine. Hey, I have nothing against it, but you don't really see what's going out in the world. You see certain people that's coming in and exchanging with you, depending on what industry that you're in, but you're not out there seeing the world the way I see it. And I'm not talking about the entire world. I'm just talking about different cultures, different ways people handle things. Like something is surprising in one state to someone that would be normal to someone over there. It's sort of like saying the N-word. You drop the N-word in the South with the hard R, you're probably going to get popped in your mouth. In New York, it's kind of, people said it growing up. I did with the A, not the hard R, but it's different. We're not respecting each other's cultures. I have a good friend of mine. He says he hates when the N-word when he hears it, even if it's in rap music, and I'm very sincere towards that. But it's not like he's trying to advocate to get that out of hip hop. You still have to respect other people's ways of life and their culture. And it seems like I don't think there is an American I mean, is there an American culture? Honestly, I'm not even trying to sound ignorant or naive or just like I don't know exactly what I'm talking about. No, it like I think about American culture like baseball, basketball, soccer moms, 9 to 5, weekends off, extracurricular activities for kids in school. That's the kind of America that I would say is a culture, fast food. And not like how it is now. I mean, like when I was growing up, it was a lot less, now everything's a franchise. And when I say fast food, yes, Olive Garden is fast food. Sorry, dude. Sorry to bust y'all bubbles. All the food, most of the foods we eat is fast food. I cook very often, frequently. I cook pretty much all the time, but not everything I make is fresh. Like we're not. I guess like the old America that was founded, everything was obviously fresh, but now we're just in a whole different world. Like we are in a different world. And it kind of seems like even with 50 to 60 years ago, we're still trying to live like we were before. And no, times have dramatically changed. So I don't think there's a culture like the Chinese, they have their culture set. Japan set. I mean, these thousands of years these guys have been around. And I know there's been changes in the way people do things, styles and stuff, but their culture is their culture. Here in America, it just seems like it shifts. I mean, the biggest thing we have going for us is the NFL and the NBA, but the NFL kind of, it takes the cake. So that would be American culture, what I would say. I don't watch football. I'm not a big fan. I love playing it. Um, but that doesn't mean that you're American or not American, because, a lot of people say, oh, it's un-American not to watch the NFL. It's like, that's not American. Being a citizen, now we're going to talk about, the actual term, being a citizen of a country, you should be assimilating and participating in any kind of way that you possibly can. And that goes from a couple of ways. Again, we'll go back to waking up in the morning, just being respectful to people and neighbors. It's it's easy to be an asshole. It's very hard to put a smile on and say good morning, especially when you're going through a lot of heavy stuff. But that's where you are trapped in your own mind. There's nothing that's forcing you to not be polite. You're making the decision to not be polite, unless someone forces you to do something. That's a different story. But just generally, like littering. No one forces anyone to litter. If there was a situation where I felt so bad, there have been times when I was driving, I leave the window cracked and like something goes flying out. And I'm like, dude, I hope these people don't think I'm a dick, especially with my car being, a quarter wrapped with my business. And while I'm door dashing, you have mistakes that do happen. But I'm talking about more so of the people that just I see it every day, almost every day. If I don't, if, see it personally, I see a bag on the floor just thrown there like it's no one's business. And it's Williamsburg. You barely see it here, but when I go to Newport News or anywhere else, my Lord. People have no respect for their own neighborhoods. And even here, though, when I'm delivering to certain neighborhoods, you see a beautiful neighborhood, but because it seems to be, let's say, um, I was gonna say a color like black, but even like you have the white trailer parks that are out here that is predominantly white people, and they're just as dirty. So you can't really put a color in there. Although it's easier to do that when people are hyper focused on color, obviously. But you see these really nice parcels, these land masses, and they're just like not taken care of. The manager doesn't care. It's that. So a manager would, most likely have an American flag saying, "I'm a real American." Smoke a cigarette, throwing it away. I mean, I smoked for many years. I quit. I smoked for a long time, and I quit a long time ago. So. And I was one of those pigs. You just throw the cigarette on the floor without even like thinking twice. Is that American? I don't think that's being an American citizen. Now we're American citizens. Even if you have a green card, it doesn't matter. You should be assimilating and helping everyone out. Hold the door for an old lady. Stop acting like maniacs on the road. I mean, there's people I see flying down the road and I catch up to them. I'm not even speeding, and I catch up to them within a minute because they're stuck over there. It's just like, everyone's in a rush. You're rude on the highway. There's mass accidents here. That's not even including the whole entire country. There's just accidents all the time because it's not because there's malfunctions in the vehicles, there's malfunctions in your brains, bro. And I'm guilty for that sometimes where, I have to cut someone off and not because I want to be a dick. I mean, I used to be like that, road rager for sure. But now there are sometimes you have to be abrasive on the road because you have to watch out for other vehicles like potentially hitting you, and you have to get aggressive. So I understand that part. It's just like the deliberate aggression for no reason. Like sometimes I'm next to someone and they want to race me, and I'm like, dude, I have a freaking Kia Soul. Like, I'm not trying to race you. And it's a lot of teenagers out here with cars, so I get it. I understand. You look at somebody the wrong way, kind of like New York, but in a car, they think like you either, trying to brake check them or, cut them off. It's just like, what is American? Because what I see is a bunch of rude motherfuckers that I have to deal with on a daily basis. Miserable, angry motherfuckers. Unless people are well off, and when you get to those environments, people, and it doesn't matter what color they are. When you get into an environment where people are well off, there's less misery, less anger. Yes, there's still assholes on the road. I'll get a Mercedes Benz. Like when you're in a rich neighborhood, you could tell obviously it'll be a Mercedes Benz just flying down the fucking road doing 45 into 25, knowing damn well that they're speeding, but they don't give a fuck. Like you do have a rotten apple out of the tree. You do get that. But the majority of the time, when you're in these neighborhoods that are well off, you don't have that problem. Or even areas and counties, you know. But are they being American? Is that American? What are they doing? What, just because they're well off and successful, how did they get there? What are they doing to stay there? Because there's a lot of people that I know personally that are pretty desperate, doing pretty fucked up things to stay in their position. And what I find fucked up may be normal in another country. But here in the United States of America, I see a lot of people, but I don't see the proud Americans that I used to see. I don't see the proud Americans that well, a lot of people are miserable, I get it, but you don't see that sense of pride. And a sense of pride doesn't come from waving a flag. It doesn't matter what it is, what flag it is. That's just showing off. It's sort of like what Jesus said in the Bible. According to who wrote it, I wasn't there when Jesus was speaking. I wasn't even there to know if there was a real man named Jesus. All I can do is go off of my faith, what I believe in, and the Bible. So I don't ever want to, tell people like, oh yeah, Jesus said this, so it has to be this way. No, according to the Bible, you know, Jesus was very clear when he was talking about don't be in the synagogues praying, out loud. In my words, excuse me, I'm paraphrasing, but don't just go out there and act all high and mighty, waving flags because pride is pride, and you're acting like you're praying and you're deep in a prayer, but you're praying, right? You look like you're praying, but in your head you're like thinking of the gambling machines that you're gonna mess with, or I wonder if Kimberly is thinking about me, or just thinking like all these crazy things, and just the whole pride, like who are we as American citizens? When I see a man helping another man out. Like if I'm on the road and I see a grown man like the same age as me having trouble, me stopping and helping him, I know it's a dangerous world. But you got to go off of vibes too and where you're at, and you have to recognize situations as well, like red flags, green flags. It shouldn't be like a problem for me to stop and help him. He should accept that help and be like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" That's being an American citizen, a neighbor. That's being a citizen of any country. We all have to help each other. You have cops, like public servants. They're not public servants. They're just out there handing tickets out and collecting money for the commonwealths or the states that wherever they're at. It's very rare, very, very rare that I see a public servant that actually gives a shit. And I mean that with all respect. I'm not saying that they all don't. Don't get me wrong at all. But I've seen great cops, stop to take an object out of the road. Me and my daughter, we were at the park one time, and there was a cop there. I think he's still on the force because I've seen him here for years. I mean, it's been like 7 years, 8 years since I've been here, and I think I've seen his face for at least 6 years. My point is that he's a pretty young, cool dude, And he's just sitting there making snowmen, and he made like a sly, funny remark to us about the snowman or whatever. And that's good-hearted American shit. Not like, oh, what is that guy doing? Like I understand the suspicions, like, a kidnapping and all. Of course, you got to keep your eyes open. But like, it just seems like some of these cops, because they have a quota, and they're just sitting back, just waiting to bust people instead of helping people. I've called 911 a lot of times, especially since I've just been trying to get my life together, raising my child. I call the police so I don't have to put my fucking hands on people. All right. But a lot of the times I've been into situations where it's just like, okay, so did you want me to choke this motherfucker? Or like what? Like, how does it work? It's like you go to these judges, and they're we're trying to use the system to help us so we don't get violent, and you motherfuckers just treat us like we're pieces of shit, and you literally forget who the fuck you work for. You motherfuckers, judges, anyone that's a public servant, don't forget who you work for. I know there's a lot of guns that you guys have on your side when it comes to the government. And because of that protection, because of those gates that you put around the White House, because of all these, you walk into a courthouse, you could barely get in without a pen being too sharp, but you could just walk into a school and just, like, what is America? Why are we protecting, why are we protecting these fucking lunatics in these public servant positions? Well, I see these board meetings here for James City County, and these members are just sitting back like with smug, like who the fuck are you guys? You should be afraid. You should be terrified of the people. That's why you guys are so keep talking shit about gun control and all this shit, because you should be terrified. A lot of yous are taking it way too fucking far. And this is not about me watching a television show. I'm not showing you clips of shit that I saw on YouTube. I'm telling you for real life experiences here as a low class American citizen that just wants his fair shake. But what is it to be American? What do I have to do to identify as American? I raise my daughter. We try to eat the best foods that we possibly can. I stay away from eating out as much as I can to make sure we're getting a great value for our money, because these chefs suck anyway, half of them. And it's not because it's not because these cooks and these chefs don't have the passion. It's just like it's being flattened by franchises. You do it this way and that way, and that's it. And it's just like you're taking the fun away from cooking. You're just making fucking robots here and there. So the food doesn't taste like it's with love. It tastes like angry food. My mother says it all the time. I don't want angry eggs or angry pancakes. If you're gonna get upset, just take a chill pill, come back and smile while you're making your shit. American. People raise a flag. Oh, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm American, I'm Mexican, I'm this, I'm that, I'm all these fucking cultures, and I'm so proud of that. But like, where's your pride here? Why do you guys throw parades and trash the fucking streets? Like, why do you guys throw parties and just trash the shit? Why are these kids in my neighborhood hanging out and just making a fucking mess of everything? And I feel like if I go say something, a parent's gonna come and then there's gonna be a confrontation just because I told those little fucks to stop leaving a mess outside. Excuse me, there's a big dumpster right in front of the park area, and these kids are just throwing shit all over the floor with no consequence. And what's my choice with this neighborhood having as many problems as it has? We're just gonna move out. I mean, got a couple of months more on the lease and we're gone. I don't deal with that because we work hard for our money. And it just gets sucked away from all these corporations. You can't get around it. It's hard. It's so hard, especially when you set yourself up in a life where it's not that you have a standard. I mean, I have a standard of living for sure, but not, I guess, like, I have a standard of living, but it doesn't mean that I have to make X amount of money in order to maintain that standard. I have a standard that I can maintain whether I'm rich or poor, and I've never been rich. So, yeah. I know a lot of people do change when they're rich, but I have had access to money and I've had money. I've spent money. So, and I think when you have a lot of zeros in your bank account, for a moment you feel unstoppable, especially when you're poor and you have like 20 or $100 in your bank. It's just like you feel rich as fuck. And it's not about being comfortable like that. It's about the where you set yourself to be. In my situation, I had a child out of wedlock, and it's I don't really care how I feel. It's just detrimental to her because now she doesn't have two parents in the household, and it becomes extremely more difficult because the parents can't get along, but then can't get along. And it just puts everything into a halt if you're a caring parent. Me, I'm a very caring parent. So because of that, I stopped everything I was doing, which puts negative zeros in my bank account. But I won in life. I not only hit a genetic lottery because I feel blessed to be born here, and as a tan color, I guess I'm in between white and black. So it does help me blend into certain situations depending on how I look. If I shave the beard, lose a little weight, I look like a almost a total different person. Uh, yeah, it's what is it to be American? And I see a lot of commentators and all these people, but most of these people that I watch that are just like prominent in the shit talking business, bro, they all have money. A lot of it. A lot of it. So it's hard to listen to them sometimes because it's just like, you're not in reality, dude. And now a lot of us, millions of us are in a situation where we kind of can't get out of right now because of the politics that are being played in the United States of America. You guys are you're disrupting all of our lives because one person wants power, the other one doesn't want to lose their power. I know it sounds, but just hear me out. One wants power, the other one doesn't want to lose power. This one wants power but can't get power. So now he's going to throw a tantrum, and then she has the power but is about to lose it, so she's about to throw a tantrum. And fuck everyone else, right? Now it's just about them two. And then you have people that have commit crimes where if they step away from power, they're screwed. Their whole entire legacy is screwed. And that's why you see a lot of these politicians that are in there for 40, 50 years. Chuck Schumer, what, 60 years or 50 years? That's insane. Why are these politicians in this office doing the same shit and we're just getting worse? And this is why democracy, for what it is now, which can easily be manipulated, bro. You can't tell me that you can count every single vote. Like, stop with the bullshit. The voting system is flawed. We all know that. There's no fucking way you're gonna count all those votes. You're not gonna do it. It's not gonna happen. Not accurately, is what I'm saying. And nothing's perfect. I get it. But I'll be damned. You're in a room full of tall people and you have two short people in the back and you guys lost your vote, or they lost what they were voting for because people couldn't see their fucking hands and all they needed was one or two more hands. The United States of America, I believe in this country. I used to actually hate this country, and that's because I misunderstood it. I didn't know history. I didn't understand anything about this country, so because of that, by default, I hated it. So I do understand why there's riots. I do understand why people litter. There needs to be a lot more people like me. I'm not saying me, but people like me that have actually struggled, like actually been in the shit. So if you struggled for 20 years growing up and now you're 40 and you're a millionaire, whatever the case is, and you're successful, you still haven't understood what it is to actually struggle as a low-class citizen in the United States. And that's not to say I'm second or third class. I'm just low class. I know my position. I'm not stupid. And I'm not afraid to say I'm poor because the only way you could fix things, and I don't need to be rich, but the only way to fix my position is by paying attention to the mistakes that I made in the past and not repeating them, not crying about it and complaining. Because, excuse me, I can guarantee you right now, I'm one of the poorest people that my friends know or family. I'm one of the poorest. I know how to get by. I understand what needs to be done. But I live like I'm rich because I feel rich. I feel blessed by God, first of all. That's not to say you have to believe in it. I have an amazing daughter. I have a support system, a very small support system in my family, and that's okay because I have tons of family members and everyone has their problems. But I think we would have a lot less of those problems if we were more closer, not, one's in California, and then you got another one in Texas, and you got another one in Florida. There's no connection. It just takes the connection apart because of everyone's personal egos. I want to do this, I want to do that. No, I want to be over here. And it's just like you tear everything apart and you get to a situation where look at us as a country. Don't get comfortable in your neighborhood. Go outside your neighborhood. Go to the hood. If you're very comfortable in your neighborhood and you never leave it, you don't understand how it is to be in the hood or anything like that, or grow up in the hood, or live with roaches and rats and mice. This is why God, I'm going to end it with this. This is why God, his anointed, according to the Bible, it makes sense. He is going to anoint the like some of the worst people on earth, and that doesn't mean that they're monsters and evil. They just made so many mistakes. They lived a life that was just like trial after trial after trial because you cannot judge a situation if you've never been in it. And that's why he is, anointing all different types of cultures of people. So his kingdom could rule over the earth. And when they say kingdom, obviously that's a government. And that government with God, if you're a true believer in God and the Bible, look, just hear me out. I'm not preaching, but how can you believe in a democracy? God ain't taking hands. He is not coming down and taking a show of hands. You do it this way or no way. And the reason why is because it works. Look at the jungle. You don't have intelligent animals in the jungle trying to create things and, taking down their own forest and identifying as a lion, although it's a fucking penguin. Like a polar bear wants to live in Florida, but you can't because your body's not meant for that. That's the point. That's the point.